I hope that some of the comments that were raised by your discussions initially would be addressed by the three witnesses we have today who travel long distances from the Netherlands and from Australia and from Korea to share their experiences and their insights, and then perhaps respond to some of the ideas and comments that you have today. But I want to thank you for holding this historic hearing, and thank you for inviting me to testify before the subcommittee. I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts on the Comfort Woman tragedy, which my good friend and our former colleague, Congressman Lane Evans, long advocated to be addressed by this body. To him, I hope he's watching, Semper Fi. As members of the subcommittee know, I recently introduced H.R. 121, a resolution calling on the government of Japan to formally acknowledge, apologize, and accept historical responsibility in a clear and unequivocal manner for its Imperial Armed Forces coercion of young women and girls into sexual slavery during World War II, euphemistically known as comfort women. These violated women, mostly Korean, Chinese, and Filipino, but include Dutch women as well, have too long been denied their dignity and their honor. My interest in seeking justice for the comfort women began during my career as a school teacher in San Jose. A couple of decades ago, I learned that Japan's Ministry of Education sought to omit or downplay the comfort women tragedy in its approved textbooks. As a teacher interested in historical accuracy and reconciliation, I knew the importance of teaching and talking about tragedy and injustice without flinching from the details. Without honesty and candor, there can be no foundation for reconciliation. My subsequent research on Japan's long unresolved historical issues with its former adversaries led me to pursue efforts toward reconciliation in the California State Assembly. And in 1999, I authored the Assembly Joint Resolution 27, which called on Congress to urge the Japanese government to issue an apology for the victims of the rape of Nanking, comfort women, and the POWs who were used as slave laborers. The resolution was ultimately passed. Now, nearly 9 years after the passage of AJR 27, I stand united with several of my colleagues in the House from both parties in support of H.R. 121 and the surviving comfort women who are here with us today. The urgency is upon this committee and the Congress to take quick action on this resolution, for these women are aging and their numbers dwindling with each passing day. If we do not act now, we will lose a historic opportunity to encourage the government of Japan to properly acknowledge responsibility for the plight of the comfort women. Elected officials of Japan have taken steps on this issue, and for that they are to be commended. In 1993, Japan's then Chief Cabinet Secretary Yohei Kono issued an encouraging statement regarding comfort women, which expressed sincere apologies and remorse for their ordeal. Additionally, Japan attempted to provide monetary compensation to surviving comfort women through the Asian Women's Fund, a government-initiated and largely government-funded private foundation whose purpose was the carrying out of programs and projects with the aim of atonement for the comfort women. The Asian Women's Fund is to be disbanded on March 31, 2007. Recent attempts, however, by some senior members of Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party to review and possibly retract Secretary Kono's statement are disheartening and mark Japan's equivocation on this issue. Additionally, while I appreciate Japan's creation of the Asian Women's Fund and the past Prime Minister's apologies to some comfort women, which accompanied this fund's dispersal of monetary compensation from this fund, the reality is that without a sincere and unequivocal apology from the government of Japan, the majority of surviving comfort women refuse to accept these funds. In fact, you will hear today many comfort women returned the Prime Minister's letter of apology accompanying the monetary compensation, saying they felt the apology was artificial and disingenuous. Just on a side, perhaps that the apologies of the aforementioned Prime Ministers, if we read it if we read their comments, they say, "My sincere regret." And what I think people are talking about is a process by which government goes through and makes a formal and unequivocal apology on behalf of the government with the leadership along with that. Mr. Chairman, let me make my intentions abundantly clear. This resolution provides for historical reconciliation and then moving forward. It is not in any way meant and should not damage our strong relations with Japan. As Congressman Robarker and I had said on our past efforts, that our efforts are in no way meant to appear to bash Japan or bash Asians or whatever. This is not what this is all about. And I understand that many feel strongly that this resolution is unnecessary, that it focuses too much on the past and fear it will negatively affect regional stability along with our alliance with Japan. These worries are unfounded. I feel strongly that accepting responsibility for the Comfort Women tragedy is worthy of a nation as great as Japan is. I also feel strongly that reconciliation on this issue will have a positive effect upon relationships in the region as historical anxieties are put to rest. And we know as policymakers on the domestic and foreign relations that many dynamics between our countries sometimes are set aside and skewed for the anxieties and the wrongs of the past that has not been yet put to rest fully. I ask that members of Congress understand that apologies on matters of historical significance are important and that they are the first necessary steps in any attempt to reconcile differences or atone for past actions. Our government has made its own mistakes, but in its wisdom it has made the difficult choice to admit wrongdoing. For example, in 1988, Congress passed, and President Ronald Reagan signed into law H.R. 442, the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which was a formal, clear, unequivocal apology to the U.S. citizens of Japanese ancestry who were unjustly put into internment camps during World War II. I want to repeat that. Congress passed and the President signed into law. And this was considered by the community a formal, clear, unequivocal apology. As someone who was put into internment camp as an infant, I know firsthand that we must not be ignorant of the past and that reconciliation through appropriate government actions to admit errors are the only ones likely to be long-lasting. And it was said that one of our past philosophers and writers, George Santayana, had said, and was quoted previously, that those who do not understand or study their past mistakes are doomed to repeat them. For many Japanese Americans whose civil and constitutional rights were violated by internment, that dark chapter of history was closed by the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which emerged over 40 years after internment. Seeking reparations was a long and arduous journey, but the apology, once it came, was clear and unequivocal. Reconciliation is something our generation should rightfully be calling for in order to promote the growth of a peaceful global society and to address issues of the past so we can finally put them to rest. Mr. Chairman, for reconciliation and justice for these women, I have worked and many other people have worked very hard to bring these three survivors, Ms. Lee Yong-soo, Ms. Kim Kuja, and Ms. Jan Ruff O'Hearn to Washington. They are the human face of wartime violence against women. Their words reflect not just history, but the continued pattern of organized abuse of women in conflict. Members of Congress who feel that this resolution is unnecessary need to look no further than these three women who know that they speak not just for themselves, but also for the young women in Burma, Bosnia, and Darfur. I urge the committee to act swiftly on H.R. 121 so that it may soon come to the floor for a vote. The strength and humanity of these women and the truths to which they testify today must supersede any political pressures to stop and slow this resolution. I want to again thank you, Mr. Chairman and the members of the subcommittee for this opportunity.